Everybody, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see you. Let's see if we can get the volume turned up here. Could you turn up the master maybe? Hi, everybody. Hello, hello. It's so great to see you all. Welcome, welcome. You're having so much fun, I can't even speak with you. The volume is being turned up as I speak. That's great. Thank you. Thanks very much, Tyler. So, boy, these weekly meetings really lift my spirits. It's so great to see you all and to see the guests that we have with us today as well. And I believe that we have approximately 20 people online. Greetings to you all as well. My name is Alain Barker. I'm the current president of the Bloomington Rotary Club. And yesterday was President's Day, right? And we were all very having Jimmy Carter in our thoughts as he navigates his way through the last part of his life, such an extraordinary human being. So I invite you, as you can, to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you so much. You may be seated. And we're still in the middle of Black History Month. And I had a fabulous lunch the other day with Patrick Smith, who is one of our members here. And he wrote back to me later in that afternoon and said, did you know about this guy by the name of Garrett Augustus Morgan, whose name I had not known before? Mr. Morgan was an entrepreneur, a prolific inventor, a community leader, born in Kentucky in March 4th, 1877. You can go to the next slide. And he excelled in life with a 6th grade education, and his inventions changed history and saved countless lives. And I'm going to tell you a story that will probably change your life as you go through intersections from now on. After witnessing a horrible traffic accident, he observed that a manually operated 2-position traffic device didn't really allow for enough transition within the intersection. And he developed and patented a 3-way traffic sign in 1923. His device was the precursor to the modern signal lights that we all rely on and take for granted and save millions of lives. His second invention of note was the gas mask. Did you know that? Called the Morgan Safety Hood. In 1916, there was a natural gas tunnel explosion 120 feet underneath Lake Erie that killed 11 workers. 11 of the 18 rescue workers were also killed, and police turned to Morgan to assist with the rescue. Using his device, he saved 8 men and countless others through the decades that have followed. So we just wanted to be aware of Garrett A. Morgan. Our world is better because of him. Thank you. Okay. And now we have Yolanda Trevino, who's going to join me at the podium here for some words.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am a member of the Rotary International Foundation Committee here for our club. And so we've been trying to inform ourselves, educate, and remind ourselves what it is that we do as Rotarians. And so today I wanted to share with you a little bit about the culture of philanthropy. So philanthropy is defined as voluntary action for the common good. So as Rotarians, we're all philanthropists. And we know that the strength of Rotary lies with our members. Today, I ask that we reflect on how we, as members of the Bloomington Rotary Club, and you as an individual, contribute to the culture of philanthropy. For me, it's always helpful to start with a common understanding and framework. So I began by defining philanthropy as voluntary action for the common good. So then I looked up the definition of culture of philanthropy. And this is where everyone understands that charity and fundraising are critical to organizational health and that each individual has a role in the process. So when you engage in the Bloomington Rotary Club, are Rotary District 6580 or Rotary International, you typically share one or more of the 3 T's, right? We talked about this the last time I spoke, I think it was last semester. Our time, our talent, and or our treasure. So philanthropic study research literature also asks that as philanthropists, champions, and people who not only work hard, but also work smart, that we also consider 2 additional T's and take a step back as well as a step forward. A step back to explore our ties to a project, an initiative, or a problem that needs to be solved. And I think we're going to hear about that a little bit later on here. For example, who do you know that might be able to support Rotary and our annual projects? You know, we have a local project and we have an international project each year. And then that we take a step forward by sharing our testimony. Are you willing to be public about your support? This not only benefits Rotary and other charities that you support, but it can also encourage others to get involved. So my request is that each of us remember our why. Why is it that we joined Rotary? And then reflect on your voluntary action for the common good and identify others who are also willing to work together to invest in and improve the well-being of people in our community and the wider world.
Thank you, Yolanda. Thank you. And thank you for everything that you do in Bloomington. You've been here for 3 decades now, and it's really fabulous. It's really wonderful to have you with us. We have some birthdays to celebrate. We've got Spud Washington. Isaac Washington is here. I believe that I saw him. So there, a happy birthday. Yeah. In fact, we have a birthday table because Bidde de Vries has a birthday. Yeah. And Glenda Murray has a birthday. So what's going on here? All 3, this is the birthday table. I don't know what happened there. That's amazing. Believe it or not, we don't have any anniversaries this week. So we'll move on next week. In fact, we'll be bringing in some new members on the 28th. So that's looking forward to that as well. Lexi Walters, one of our wonderful new members, she's going to come up and join me here and introduce the guests. Lexi.
Okay, we have a lot of guests today. I believe there's 19, so please bear with me. And I apologize in advance if I mispronounce anyone's names. But if we could have everyone remain seated and hold our applause until the end. We have Dakota and Danya Medley, Jane Martin, who is a guest of Michelle Cohen, Christian or Christina Okea, and Martha Shedd, who are guests of Jeff Richardson. We have Eileen Schaaf and Julie Dunham, who are guests of Sarah Laughlin, John Miller and Clara Stanley from the Southport Rotary, Marcia Lovejoy and Jean Hurley, who are guests of Jim Bright, Nancy Van Allen, Sam Hughesdale Weddle. I think those are 2 different last names, and Trudy Weddle, who are guests of Susie Graham. We have Chris Metter, who is a guest of Liz, Paul Helmke, who is a guest of Jeff Richardson, Jill Bond, who is a guest of Jim Bright, Kyle Siebert, who is a guest of Jeff Richardson, and Janya Vademas, who is a guest of Beta Duis.
Thank you so much. And Dean Ochoa, it's wonderful to have you with us from the law school. Thank you. Let's see. Joy, do we have any guests online?
Yes, we do, Alan. I'm happy to welcome Eric Ost to Rotary this afternoon. He is the president of the Elm Heights Neighborhood Association.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joy. That's great. And thank you so much for helping us with Zoom today. Okay, so we have some sad news. Del Brinkman, who many of you knew, he passed away just this past week. Apparently, he watched a sports game, went to sleep, and passed away. So at least he died peacefully. A longtime journalism educator and administrator, and a longtime Rotarian. Del was past president of the Lawrence, Kansas Rotary Club from '86 to '87. And a member of the Bloomington Rotary Club from 2002 to 2020. So he was with us for quite a while. He moved back to Kansas in January 2020, just before the outbreak of the COVID pandemic. He earned a bachelor's degree in journalism from Emporia State University in '58, the year before I was born. Wow. It's nice to feel young for a change. And then he received his MA and PhD degrees in mass communications from IU Bloomington. Del was a big sports fan, especially supporting the Kansas Jayhawks and the Indiana Hoosiers, of course. Okay, I wanted to quickly mention that we have this book that Ilse Marsden, also a previous member of the Bloomington Rotary Club who passed away a few years ago, wrote. She was a fabulous children's book writer. And we had this project with a club in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, in which we produced this book as well as a French version. And we have a number of them available that have come to our attention. And we have now made them available to you to buy for all of $14.99, I believe, or something like that. So by all means, have a look at this at the front desk. It's a fabulous book and definitely worth sending to, well, reading and then giving to your children or grandchildren. I mentioned a week or two ago that we have special ticket offers for Candide. All of $10 to go to Candide, which is an absolute steal. This is specifically for Rotary members, and I hope you take advantage of it. And we're going to have Connie Glenn next week talking about Leonard Bernstein. So that's something to think there. Okay, Tim Jessen, would you like to join me here and talk about the speech contest?
We'll make this brief because we all want to get on to hear our speaker, but I've been working over the last couple of months on the annual speech contest, and we had our trials and tribulations, but we have come up with a winner, and I'll introduce him in just a minute. Before I introduce him, I want to introduce Nancy Van Allen. If you would please stand and remain standing. She is a teacher librarian at Edgewood High School, and she's provided us with the winner last year, Alan Martindale, and Dakota this year, and she's already got a candidate for next year. and then there were several other students that applied, and all of them were from Edgewood. So you people that are big supporters of the other high schools in this county, get to work next year. You can be here to present the winner. And Dakota's mother, I'll introduce him in a minute, is Mrs. Medley, if you'd stand. And then also Wendell St. John went over there to Edgewood, and we had the contest there in the Edgewood High School Library and Media Center, which was absolutely fantastic. Wendell, you're supposed to stand up. Give these people a round of applause. And our winner is Dakota Medley. We're not going to have time to listen to his speech, but I just wanted him to say a word about the 4-way test and what it means to him and his speech. So speak right into the microphone, Dakota.
About what the speech means.
Yes, about the speech. Don't make the speech, talk about the speech.
It's how do I word this? It's just, it was supposed to have me envision what the school would be like if everybody lived by the Rotary 4-way test. Sorry. And I tried my best to reimagine what I thought the school would be like in as many ways as possible, or as many details as possible, to explain how I think the school might be if it honestly lived by those 4 certain requirements on that test. Now, there were a couple things I think I left out of it because I didn't think they're necessary, but other than that, yes.
That's
Sorry.
fine. Anybody wants to take a picture, I'm giving him the check right now. Thank you all for your support.
And before she sits down, we have Connie Glenn, who's just arrived here as well. She'll be our guest speaker next week. Great to have you, Connie. Okay, a few quick updates, just reminders really. We've got our Habitat Build March 18th and 25th that's coming up. So please make sure when we send you information in the link, go ahead and sign up for that. We've got the Hoosier Hills Food Bank project that's happening on Tuesday, February 28th, which is next Tuesday. So for those of you who want to get involved, I believe that we have 3 or 4 slots available there as well. And, likewise, our guests, you're very welcome to join as well. We've got these wonderful projects that we do. The district conference, I have some good news about the district conference. We had our fabulous board meet last Thursday, and we've agreed that every Bloomington Rotary Club member over the past 5 years will be able to go to the district conference half off. So we are now sponsoring every member of this Rotary Club for the past 5 years to go to the district conference on April 22nd. We hope that you will join us there, that you will be there with Lance Eberly, and that you will also see the initial, that you celebrate and enjoy some of the inaugural youth conference that we're putting on during that time as well. So that's some good news. We do actually have like 3 minutes for Happy Dollars. And since there are so many of you there, let's go ahead and run through maybe 3 or 4 Happy Dollars for today. Jim Bright.
Thank you, Alan. In honor of our guest speaker and his amazing cook team and their support of Teachers Warehouse, I want to contribute 25 Happy Dollars in their honor to Teachers Warehouse. Thank you so much for being a wonderful corporate citizen.
Our son graduated from Bloomington High School South, which is on a trimester this past Friday. But being a true Hoosier, I got my priorities straight. I want to give money for the women's basketball team. $20.
I also want to give money for the women's basketball team. They're just fantastic. And I'm also happy because it's just a sunny day.
Yeah, that's great. Anybody online? Anybody online? Let's see if somebody online wants to jump forward and say something. Otherwise, have we got Lance? We've got our district governor online there. Okay, let's keep going. Sally Gaskell.
And I'd like to, in Jim Bright's spirit, give 25 Happy Dollars to today to honor the Cook Group and Pete Yonkman's support of Constellation Stage and Screen.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We'll have one more.
I just want to give a happy dollar to my guest today, Chris Metter. It's great that he could finally make it, and I'm hoping that he joins our club.
Thank you. And I noticed that Marcus Deborah, who's online, matched Jim Bright's $25 for Teachers Warehouse. So that's great. Well done. Okay. So thank you very much, Lexi, for greeting our guests and introducing them. Joy Harder as our Zoom host. Yolanda, thank you very much for the reflection. And Aaron Brewington is our reporter for the month. And Michael Shermas, thank you so much for being our Zoom mic operator. And Tyler Martin Nichols, who is our tech guy. With that, I believe that Charlotte Zietlow has a very important introduction to make.
Okay, I'm very glad today to introduce our guest. But if you read yesterday's newspaper, you know he needs no introduction. It was all there. That's not all. I've been following Pete Yonkman as soon as I knew about him. And one of the things, I'm getting older in case you didn't notice. And I began looking back on life, which is in my view, a series of adventures. You never know what's going to happen. But what I do realize and have appreciated is how varied experiences one has in life. There are so many different parts of the world, so many different parts of each of our lives that we don't even think about it until they're over. But thinking back, and having had a lot of experiences in other countries as well as, so sometimes this feels like another country. I, I, I am one of the things I realize is very important is that we begin to pull all the different pieces together, education and healthcare and taking care of children and being peaceful and working with one another. They're all hugely important. And a wonderful society can come about if everybody does his or her part, no matter what it looks like. It's going to be tied to a number of other things. And so when I read Pete Yonkman's autobiography, I see he comes from Crown Point, which is up north in the region, as we know, and we're down here in IU land. And sometimes it feels as if the two do not meet, but in fact they do. and he came from Crown Point and went to Indiana University way down south in Bloomington, Indiana, and got his bachelor's degree at IU in philosophy and psychology, which I must say, that's not the usual path that most people take. And that led to law school for him, I guess, because psychologically and philosophically, that's all tied together. But he seems to have learned a lot from that, because as I look at his resume and what he's become involved with, he gradually worked his way up in the Cook group, and before it was the Cook group, because he brought the Cook group to be in Cook Medical over a period of 20 some years, which is remarkable. And he is very committed to education, and he joined the Cook group, which already gives its employees health care in a way that's very novel in this world that we live in a very, very far thinking way of dealing with employees. But employees are important. When I ran for Congress in 1978, I went to a lot of little towns in western Indiana, Wisconsin, sorry, but that's where it came from. It sneaks out. And every one of the little towns I went to had some sort of industry that had grown up from its culture, and it employed people, which made it possible for people to have government from the taxes that they paid into their town. And it seemed to me we had a really wonderful, robust, inclusive economy. But things have changed a lot in the last 70 years that I remember. But when I heard Pete speak the other day at the governor's luncheon, he was great. And what I saw was that here's a man who sees the world as a complete thing and seeing all the pieces that go together, because he's really become involved in supporting education and being a really good boss from way up there for the people who work down here, and understanding what their needs and aspirations are. So he's worked on housing and healthcare and education and, well, just about everything. I think he has a complete view of what a community could and should be, and that is really exceptional. So including art. I mean, it seems he was one of the first people I heard talk about the emerging constellation, which seemed to me such a good idea. It brought the arts community together, supportive instead of pulling at each other for resources. So combining resources and having a vision that brought where one part of the world feeds another part, where jobs make it possible for people to buy things and to become part of the economy, to enjoy their lives. That's a vision that we really need, and it's this vision that impresses me about.
Thank you.
Pete.
Yeah.
So I give you I give you Pete, the visionary.
Well, I don't know what to do with that. How do you respond? How do you follow that? You know, I jumped at the chance to come speak to you all today. One, because Charlotte asked, and when she asked, you clear your schedule. And the other was because I think that groups like Rotary are incredibly important. And I sadly, I think they're in decline in our communities over the years. A lot of the the community-based organizations that brought us together on the same table are changing and fading away in some ways. So I think this is an incredibly important group. I also think about the impact that each of you have on individuals. And I hope that you see throughout this presentation, we really focus on people as individuals and trying to think about what are their needs. And I was thinking about that. So Marcia's here. Marcia was introduced. I want to ask Marcia to come up for a second. So Marcia is in charge of our PR and social media and external facing communications. And she also is a graduate of IU. But she sent me a message and said, I'm coming there. And I don't think I'm stalking you, but I'm coming to the speech tomorrow because I was a guest of Jim. And you said something I thought was very interesting. She said, he was my favorite professor in college. And, all these years later, right? All these years later. I think about that too. I think all of us probably have a teacher that impacts us in some way. That one person has this impact across multiple generations. And I think a lot of the work that you're doing has that same impact. So I thought maybe I wanted you just to share what was the impact? Why does he still in your head?
Well, Jim Bright was my professor ages and ages ago in college. And one thing that he taught me is the importance of, getting to know people and building relationships and understanding where people are coming from. From a very practical standpoint of being a PR practitioner in Ford Motor Company for many, many years as an executive, he taught me a lot of the rules of the road of, how to engage with reporters, how to communicate clearly, and be thoughtful about your audiences. But overarching, the number one thing Jim Bright has taught me is how to be a good human. So, and that's something I carry with me into my career and personal life, is how to continue to give to the community and be a good person for those that need it.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you. I think that's a good segue. There's censorship from China, apparently. I don't know if it's... Interesting statistic. Did anybody use TikTok in here? I learned this yesterday, right? I'm addicted to TikTok. My kids are on it all the time. Did you know? I thought that was some computer, like it was just telling me what I wanted, like it was an algorithm. There are hundreds of thousands of people in China every day reviewing all those videos and tagging them with content that would be related. I had no idea. Think about the infrastructure of having hundreds of thousands of people. Well, anyways, I'm on a tangent. That's the world that Marcia lives in now. I'm sure it's not the world you studied in college. It's very different. And what I think with Marcia has been so successful is because of the adaptability. And I think that's what comes from education from IU, the broad-based learning. And we're going to need more of that coming up. But I want to talk about something that she said was being a good human. And I think about that as it relates to us individually, of course. But what does that mean for a company? How do you be a good company? What is our role in society? I don't know if you follow this, but a lot of discussion about that, right? What is CSR? What is ESG? Should companies care? Should they only be worried about money? What is the ethical way to behave? So we think a lot about that. And that's what I want to talk about today. So I think most of you know us. I won't spend too much time here. If I can, do I need to do something in advance? Okay. Okay. So, you know the story. Bill Cook, spare bedroom, built this amazing company, incredible entrepreneur. We've grown, obviously, we have about 13,000 employees today. Our medical device company, which is primarily what we do, sells in every country in the world that has healthcare. These are the products that we make. So just to give you some examples, maybe some of you in the room have had them. I've had a few of them myself. And if you have an orifice, we'll stick something in it. So those black boxes are not hiding the orifices. That's just something going on. I still can't advance. Yeah. All right. Yeah. See if I can go backwards. Oh. I can do the joke again. Should I do the joke again? So we do have a lot of other businesses. Probably some of you experience them, right? Things like a French Lick Hotel and Resort. Hopefully you've been down there, experienced that. We do provide healthcare to all of our employees directly here in Bloomington, the Cook Family Health Center, which is a tremendous benefit, I think, for people who work at Cook. To be able to have a primary care doctor and access to easy physicians is a big deal. Just to give you a sense of where we are, our people are globally. Sorry, a little bit of delay there. We have about 9,000 people in the US. We're primarily a US-based company, but even more than that, we're a Hoosier company, right? Most of our people are here. Our global headquarters are here. And think about it, we're really primarily a Southern Indiana company. This is what I want to talk about. So if you go to our company statement, this is where I think about what is the role of a company. How do you be a good company? And it involves a good human. So this is what we say we are. We're a family of ethical and entrepreneurial companies that exist to empower people and communities to reach their full potential. So we have different mission statements for different organizations, but as a whole, as a collective, what is it? Why do we exist as a collective? And I think we really spent a lot of time as we developed this, going back into the family history, going back into the business history, and understanding what drove them to do the things they did. And it really was about this. And this is what I made some comments yesterday or last week at the meeting with the governor, and I really think that's true. We don't have all the answers, right? We have challenges, we struggle, we're subject to the same ups and downs of business and all those challenges. We don't have a magic bullet, but we try. We try to start by saying, what do our stakeholders need? What do they want? What are our customers, our employees, communities where we live? And we start with that proposition. What's the need? What's the obstacle? And how do we get at the table and try to figure that out? That's what my comments were driven towards at the governor's luncheon was, as individual stakeholders, whether we're elected officials or just people at the table, we have to put our own issues aside and ask first, let's start with what are the needs of our citizens and people we're impacting and work from there. And so I know there are some elected officials there and we've talked about this. If you start with that proposition, I think it gets a lot easier. So that's where we start. But there are some obstacles to reaching that goal. How do you get people to be empowered and to reach their full potential? And I want to start at a high level here. So if you think about some of the big issues that we're faced with, these are just things that I think about. I think about them because I talk to lots of different people around the globe in our company, and people are just unsettled in some way, right? We've been through a pandemic, there are wars, there are balloons flying over the country. I mean, who would have thought we'd been talking about balloons flying over the country? But it just makes people unsettled in some ways. And some of these things are obvious, right? The global pandemic. I feel like people do feel like it's harder and harder to enter the middle class, to find a pathway through the middle class. China is an issue for us. We deal with that every day. Just to give you an example, our employees, we try to treat very similarly. We try to get information out to everybody. We have to treat our employees in China differently because of the information that we're allowed to send or we're allowed to extract. And so it's a very different experience. And I feel like that's what we're coming as a world is we're having these two different experiences, and that's just disconcerting in some way. This issue is a big one for me. I've heard BlackRock and others say that today, 70% of the homes in the US are owned by individuals, by people. They want to flip that so that 70% of them are owned by renters. And so the home, the American dream of owning a home, and that, what does that mean to our communities? I think we need to watch that. And if I think about that, so if all these things are disconcerting, and I feel it from our employees, where do you go to solve the problem? And one of the interesting things is if you look at surveys of trust, media is in the tank, government is in the tank. Sadly, churches are decreasing. There's a lot of just all these institutions people are not trusting, but strangely, I find strangely, trust in business and business leaders is going up. People are looking more and more towards businesses to solve solutions. I don't know why that is. I don't know what the dynamic is there, but we see it time and time again. The survey from this year reconfirmed that. And so I guess the question is, if that's what's happening, what do we do with that as businesses, as business leaders? And the other thing I think about is who has, maybe the reason why people are looking at this is because they say, well, who has the reach and the power to do something? If you look at just in Indiana, for example, how many government workers there are compared to business workers and how many resources that we have combined, right? So if you thought about business as an entity, it has far more resources than the government ever could. Challenges were not always aligned and we're not always thinking about the things the same way, but if we did, you could have a very powerful mechanism of community improvement. So I'll give you our approach and how we think about it. How do we answer the question of what is a good company and what is our ethical responsibilities in a society? So we kind of try to break it down to something simple, relatively simple, and said, if you think about an individual person, what do we want to create? We want to create, we think, is an opportunity for upward mobility, right? So they can improve their lives and their families' lives. At a start, you're doing pretty good if you can accomplish that. And for us, that really starts with education. So many times today, the pathway to this upward mobility starts with education, and we need to have good access to that. Then it starts with a job and a career, and then you have, if you can do all that, you get empowered generations. And I'll talk to you in a moment about our education program. What I would note for you is that in our education program, I meet with our graduates and have lunch with them right before they graduate. 60% of them are women who were not able to finish high school or college because they were pregnant. And everyone, almost to a T, says, the reason I'm doing this is because I want my children to see the value of education. Interesting to me, it's about their children almost first before it is about them. So as we look at this pathway, right, so there are some things that stop people from getting on that pathway and moving forward. And these are not things, obviously not new to people, but these are how we saw them. So it could be lack of education, racial inequity, somebody been previously incarcerated, housing access, they've been chronically underemployed or homeless, substance use disorder. These are things that keep people sort of stagnant and not being able to move forward. And so we tried to, as an employer, what can we do to help remove some of those barriers for people? And so that's our approach. We say, we feel like we have an obligation as a good neighbor, as a part of this community, as a part of the world, to say that we should use our skills, our opportunities, and our resources to be an active member of the community and to make sure that while we're doing business, and we have to be a good business, we have a profit and loss statement just like everybody else, but can we find a way to use that profit and loss statement in a way that's good for us, but also good for the community at the same time? And those possibilities are there. And that's why I think people ignore in the debate about what's the role of an organization, is sometimes say it's either or. Either you're a business or you're philanthropic. And I think there's a middle ground that we should achieve. So I'll start with the first obstacle that we had, which is education. So we used to have a requirement that our employees have a high school diploma, and that didn't make sense for us. I realized that doesn't make any sense. We didn't have a requirement for that. It just was. So we eliminated that requirement and partnered with Ivy Tech and others and said, hey, can we have our people work part-time in the morning and then go to school in the afternoon? We'll pay them full time, but we can get them a high school diploma. And the answer was absolutely, of course. That's what they're set up to do. And so we did that. We have about 300 graduates now through that program. There are 25,000 people in our area who don't have a high school diploma. And I worry about their future because can they get on that pathway? And then we also added direct payment to our education system beyond a high school diploma. So we used to have an old reimbursement system that said, well, you take a class and we'll reimburse you. Well, that was an obstacle for people. They didn't have that money available. So we said, well, just direct pay. We went from having 75 people in the program to 1,000 overnight when we made that change. So it shows you the pent-up demand for education. And we've had 800 to 900 any given time in the last 3 or 4 years since that program started. I want to share this video. This is no guarantees. We're going to try and share a video with you. All right. But this is a story, one of our first graduates of the program.
Sterilization gown, you could never tell that just a few years ago she was pregnant with child, without a high school degree and without direction in her life.
It was kind of scary, but at the same time I was like, okay, I'm 21 years old. I got to get out of mom's house with my baby, and then I was pregnant with my second child at the time. So I just had to do what a grown-up, responsible person is supposed to do.
So she left Chicago for Indiana, where a help-wanted ad just caught her eye.
And I thought I was like reading wrong at first. So I opened it up and then I read more about it. And it said that, you know, they help you get your GED. All you have to do is like go to school 4 days out the week. And I was like, that sounds good, you know.
It was an ad for the Pathway program at Cook Medical. It was not a handout, but a hand up by the 5,000 Hoosiers without high school degrees currently in Monroe County alone.
So we created a program where they can come work part-time at Cook, and then in the morning, and then in the afternoon they go with no charge to them. They can go get their high school equivalency over about a 7-week period, and then they get to come back and have a full-time job at Cook.
But Nicole saw more than an ad. She saw an opportunity. So she took it.
And I mean, there's been plenty of times that I wanted to give up, but my teacher, she's like, you know, Nicole, you got it. Just, you know, don't beat yourself up about it. You got it. It's going to be okay. I believe you can pass it. And just her telling me those simple words, because I've never had a teacher tell me that when I was in high school. So just her telling me those simple words gave me the strength to keep going.
She attended Monroe County adult education classes at Ivy Tech, just up the street from Cook.
She's left me quite a few messages on my phone saying how much I gave her confidence and that she wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for me. And so it just really, she touched my heart.
I heard Bill say one time, the greatest thing you can do for somebody is to give them a job.
I don't think no other company would have thought to do something like this, especially to help people who don't have. I think it's just amazing that they did something like this to help other people.
And you go back and you balance your family and life and bills, and you go back to school and you can see the change every day in that person's life. What more can you ask for?
Now she's set to graduate with her degree.
And it just changes their life for them and their children and their family. So you can see the impact immediately.
Her children certainly did when they noticed she wasn't wearing her fast food uniform.
When I told them I was going to work, and then they realized I didn't have on like my uniform, they was like, Mommy, well, I thought you said you were going to work. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to work, but I don't work there anymore.
No, now she works here. In Bloomington, Kevin Rader, Channel 13, Eyewitness News.
I love that, how
Yeah.
the legacy continues there. Right now, Nicole, the 17th student to successfully complete that pathway program.
Hopefully you can hear most of that. I'm not sure.
And
It was kind of quiet.
her children's
You bet.
too.
Right.
for
You
sure.
know,
The interesting thing about Nicole is that she actually left our company, and I was kind of like, oh my God, where'd she go? Well, she went to go back to nursing school, which I think is terrific, right? You got somebody in her first job, now she's going to nursing school. I don't remember, we had an update on where she was recently. Oh, that's right, yeah. Mhm. So we don't put any requirements on people. We don't say you have to stay for a certain amount of time after getting your education. We say have a great time when you're here, do great work for us, and then take that opportunity for a free education and go out and be a better, productive member of the community. So we also have a great relationship. I'm sure a lot of you know Stone Belt here in Indiana or in Bloomington, and we have a wonderful long-term relationship with them. And we basically, they're a supplier for us, and they make product, and they're a critical supplier for us. So I'm not going to go through too much here, but I do want to share a video. I'm not sure with the sound. How do you feel with the sound in this one? Okay. All right. It should be different. Different, not necessarily better, but just different. So, okay, let's give it a try.
I have to have my headphones on. There's just something about the music that I can't explain. I don't know what it is. There's just something about it that helps me stay focused. I feel like normal. Normal is just a drier setting. Oh, because there's no such thing as normal. It's too early. Ugh, 5 more minutes. Mom, what time is it? I work at a sheltered workshop at Stonebelt, and I've been there for a little over 4 years. A lot of people don't see how I managed to put eye drops in my eyes. It used to be a 3-person operation, at least when I was young. I wouldn't have a reason to get up in the morning. I would just be sitting on my butt in the apartment with nothing to do. And that would not be a good thing. I feel my phone. Oh, there's my headphones. Yeah, I feel them. We're good. Okay. It gives me a sense of purpose. Friday can't get here soon enough. That's all I gotta say. 'Cause it's payday. Hey Siri, how's the weather today? Burr. All right, I'm out.
We believe that everybody should be able to work because work's an important part of your life. That's the first thing you ask people is, what do you do for a living? And when you say, nothing, you know, we take great pride in our jobs. And when you can come to work here in this accommodating place, it empowers them.
It's always that second button down that's being stubborn, you know?
Our mission is to prepare, empower, and support people with disabilities to be a part of the community and live a full life. All of our programs are based upon that and built around that.
90 to 95% of the time, make catheter connectors for Cook Medical. Because my eyesight is going downhill, I have to do them by feel. Stay in there.
We started with Cook over 30 years ago, and it just worked.
I can listen to my music, and I can do over 1,500 in an 8-hour time period.
So for staff out here, this is just a continual thing all day long. We're counting, we're QCing, we're counting, we're QCing. There's 26 different varieties of these by size and color. I don't want people to give us work because they feel sorry for us. I want them to give us work because we do a really good job.
Cook needs these things to be spot on. There's no room for error.
They have as much ability as anybody else given the right surroundings and the right circumstances.
I like to make them as good as I possibly can. Quality over quantity. I just don't like to be put in a box. I don't like being controlled.
Not that many years ago, people were sent to institutions when they had a disability or they were kept at home. It was an embarrassment. We believe everybody has something to give back to their community. Clients are having the opportunity to do what maybe they would never get the chance to do. And Cook provides that for us. Claudia does the payroll dance on Friday. You're a pretty wild lady, aren't you, on payday? They're not shy about saying, we work for Cook. The thought that they are doing something that helps somebody is powerful for them.
It motivates me because it can potentially save people's lives.
When I came 16 years ago, we were doing about 2 million pieces a year. Last year we did 5.5 million, and I ran the numbers this morning, and we will be about 70,000 short of 6 million this year for 2019. So it's growing into a great partnership that is a win-win, I believe, for both of us.
The people at Stonebelt are awesome, all of them. We love working with that partnership, and it's been, you know, it's one of those things. Could we outsource that work somewhere else? Yes, but why not do that work in a place that also needs the opportunity, right? That's what I mean by taking business opportunities and thinking a little bit differently about them and putting them intentionally in a place that can also make 1 + 1 = 5. You can't give me the hook yet. Well, what I will skip ahead a little bit. I want to talk about our work in Indianapolis. I need to go back a little bit here. We have a relationship with Goodwill. Same thing. We outsource work to Goodwill. They hire people who have disabilities, who have obstacles like previous incarceration or substance use disorder. And then those folks work there, and then they come work for Cook when they're ready. But I want to talk about working in Indianapolis. So we have this wonderful relationship with Goodwill also. And the idea was, after George Floyd was murdered, our team was frustrated because we saw a lot of companies putting out statements, right? They would do that's what we call hashtag activism. And it didn't feel substantive to us. We wanted to be more active and do something, be a small part of the solution. And so we partnered with Goodwill, met a lot of communities in Indianapolis, found a community up in 38th and Sheridan that we really fell in love with because of the people and their passion. And now we have a fully operational 50,000 square foot manufacturing facility. We have 25 people, up to 40 by the end of the month, all from the local community. Many of them can walk to the business. We provide free education for them. Goodwill provides wraparound services. Many of them have come from prison or have been touched by the judicial system. I met a person up there who was working there, and he came up and he said, "This week I got my ankle bracelet off. First time in 30 years that I've been free. And it's because of this job." Again, we could put that work anywhere, but why not put it in the community that needs the help? Through those discussions, we also realized that the community was a food desert. So I'm sure you're familiar with that concept. All 5 grocery stores had left about 100,000 people and was considered a food desert. We met these 2 entrepreneurs, Michael and Marcus, who were building a small grocery store, but really struggling because of the resources and needs. We thought, well, we know how to do things. We can build, we can help support supply chain, et cetera. And so this summer, they'll be opening up a 15,000 square foot, owned by them, grocery store to serve as that community. So we think that's the idea here, is how do we partner our skills with the community skills? And I just want to share what we learned here real quickly, because this, I think, gets to the heart of what we're talking about here, which is, what does it mean for a company to come in and be part of a community, to think about how you ethically interact with a community, how you partner yourself with a community? And so what we've done is created something that the community is calling the Sankofa Access Zone. So this is an area of Indianapolis around our facility in the grocery store. And if the word Sankofa actually comes from the community, it's sort of a metaphor for taking the history that you have and learning from that and moving forward. And so what we're talking about is a zone here that is about 10,000 people. It's a small area, relatively speaking. But what we've been doing is trying to collect ourselves and say, how do we start to address issues like, why are some of the statistics that you'll see, why are they that way? Why is it that somebody who lives in this zone has 10 years less life expectancy than somebody else who lives 2 miles down the road? Why is it that there are no investments in this community? Why is investment pulled out? What can we do to make sure the education outcomes are the same? So we can't solve all those problems, but we have a tremendous group, and I'll scroll here, just for the sake of time, I'll scroll through some of these things. We have a tremendous group of people that we've put together, of which we're part of. It's not us trying to solve all these things alone, but it includes government, it includes the police department, it includes neighborhood presidents, it includes church leaders. So everybody from the community coming together and saying, how do we bring our resources? Each of us has unique things that we can bring to the table. How do we put all those together to start to address some of those big issues in the community? And we've had some success along the way. These are our partners here. You can see it's a huge cross section of the community. What I find is interesting is we have set a rule that said no politics. Nobody gets to bring their political agenda. Their discussions, it all has to be fact-based. It has to be based on what we see, what we experience, and then what the feedback is from the community. And then how do we find collective overlap so that we can all take action? And that's the goal. So this was the goal for the community defined. It doesn't seem like, it seems like it's a goal for every community should have, right? Health and education outcomes, food sovereignty, sound infrastructure. Security is a huge issue. There are shootings in that community, unfortunately, all the time. But what we're finding is that there is opportunity. We are making progress. I'll give you one example. So the community, I went on a ride along with the police department up there, and the police officer said, I'm going to show you this gas station. In that gas station, you watch what happens. So he is driving up, turns on his lights, people scatter, cars leave the parking lot. It's a known open drug market. Everybody knows it, community knows it, police know it, neighbors know it. Nothing can be done about it. So we said, okay, well, let's take that back to the group. And so what we did was we wrote a collective letter and said, hey, we're concerned about what's happening here, but we want to help. And so what we did, the first step we did was we connected that owner. We volunteered to pay for them to have cameras installed in the outside of their business, and connected that to the B-Link system, which is connects to the police department, right? All with the support of the community, mind you. Now, they were very cognizant about what the cameras are going to do, how they're going to work. But what the owner told us was he knew it was a problem too. But he said, here's what he said. Now I ask you how you answer this question. Okay, here's my problem. My business is down 50% in the last 2 years. The drug dealers pull up in their cars. They pull up their shirt, flash the gun at my attendant and say, I'm staying here all day long. What are you going to do about it? Like, what do I do about it? Like, I'm not investing more money in this business because why would I? Well, what do you do? So all we can do is we partner with the police department. They increased enforcement. The owner put in place the cameras. He put in place a trespass order for certain people who they knew were problems. And it's starting to move. And we actually track crime statistics. That was a hot zone in our area, is no longer a hot zone. Now, challenge is it's moving, right? It's going to continue to move. And so we got to continue to follow it. But for those 10,000 people, our objective is to how do we increase their upward mobility? How do we increase their quality of life? So I'll leave you with this. What can a community do, or what can a company do in these environments? And first thing we can do is convene. I think if I called anybody in this room, you'd probably show up. Not because of me, but because we're a company that has a big influence in the organization, in the community. I'm not sure that's right. I've heard communities calling for activity for a long time. We show up and ask and it gets done. Not right, but it's reality. So why not at least use the reality to the benefit of the community? We also have the ability to amplify. I can stand up here today and talk about these things and talk about these communities. I can whisper in the right person's ear, right? I know who to call if there's an issue that's being blocked by government, if it's being blocked in red tape. I can call the right person. Again, maybe it's not right, but it usually gets action. So why not use that authority that we've built, that trust that we've built, and try and also use it for the benefit of the community? And finally, we mobilize. We have people like Marcia and all kinds of people in our organization have these incredible talents. Why not let them use that? I would say, if Marcia to go out and volunteer for a soup kitchen is important, but for Marcia to go out and build the capabilities of a small not-for-profit in the community to understand how they build their website, how they build their web presence, how they gain followers, is using her highest and best skills for the benefit of the community. So I will end with that. I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for listening. Thank you for all the things you do at Rotary. I really am a believer in organizations like this and the impact one people at a time, and big people and sometimes in groups. So I thank you for your work and for the opportunity. Thank you.
Apologies about that.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you, Pete. And I guess I can say this comfortably that the Rotary organization in Bloomington is always ready to partner and work with the Cook group as well. And so we're just so grateful that you're here with everything that you do. So with that said, let's rise and say the 4+1 test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, is it fun? Thank you all. And then next week, we will have Connie Glenn talk about Leonard Bernstein. Thank you.